So now let's have a look at our quality assurance for the integrity of our unit. So in my hand here, I have what is called a step wedge. You may have seen this in your office. The step wedge helps us to identify the integrity of our unit. So this is made of aluminum, okay? So it's going to show in different phases of a grayscale when we take the image. So you'll see here on the table, I have used my Schick 33 sensor to demonstrate one way to utilize it. Because the back of the Schick sensor is a little bit rounded, it could move on you. So I've just used this blue barrier tape to hold it down for the purposes of my taking this quality assurance test. So when I place my lovely step wedge on top of my Schick sensor there, if I zoom in, there we go. The one thing we want to make sure is that when you take your image, you're completing it at the same exact height of exposure from the tube head every time. So you're not zooming in, you're not pulling away, and that it's equal and it's consistently the same. So here again, you'll see that rectangular collimator. Okay, so again, we have that little bit of space. So I have it set at a vertical angle right now. If I wanted to change it, it changes to horizontal and you can hear the click. Okay, so when I come in, I'm going to place the tube head above, okay, and I've aligned it up. This is one way to create a quality assurance device. So this is known to be the exact same distance. So if I put this over my size 2 sensor and I place my tube head directly over top, every time it's going to take the exact same image from the same distance away. So it's one way to help with your quality assurance. Again, if you're working in a room with multiple clinicians, maybe one day it's a dentist, one day it's an assistant taking it, one day it's a hygienist, you need to know kind of where they're taking it so that it's not going to impact the quality of the image. So again, it's just one simplistic way of creating a quality assurance device. The most important thing is that when you first get your unit and you take your picture, you want to make sure that you have documented correctly all of the following. So you want to make sure that the date that it was exposed, you want to make sure you identify the actual KVP and the MA, who took the image, the time and the density, what room it was taken in, what unit it was taken in, so that it can be repeated, and so you have a baseline data. So that first image that you've taken with your quality assurance and your step wedge, you have identified all of the things that need to be repeated and from what distance. So that way the next person coming in can do the exact same thing, and that if you start to see changes in the quality assurance over time, you're able to compare to the baseline information that you have. So I'm going to just rotate here to our screen, and on the screen you're going to see a number of different quality assurance tests. So what happens with the step wedge is you end up with a grayscale, and so that grayscale you'll see goes from very, very white to black almost, and there should be 9 steps in total, so you can count them every time to make sure that you can see clearly a definitive line between each one. So again, that helps you, and you can go back to the original and compare from today's date to the next date. And so that way you're always making sure that the quality assurance of your actual testing unit is up to standards. If you start to see changes, maybe the image is really dark, maybe the image ends up being way too light, then you need to investigate whether it's your X-ray unit, whether it's your Schick sensor, your phosphor plate, whatever it is that you're utilizing, you need to test now and figure out. And if you can't do that on your own, you need to call your technicians to come and help. So this should be maintained whenever the unit is being used. So in your office, you may have a protocol that every morning before you expose a client or the general public that you're taking your test first and making sure that everything is up to standards before you start. So this is just one good example of how you could utilize just what you might have in your office for a quality assurance standard and protocol in place.